Hey one, hey all, welcome to Monday, welcome to Countdown Day, and I have avoided this topic for years. Did not want to do it, don't want to do it. There's a few on here I agree with, there's plenty on here I don't at all agree with, and if there was ever a list that showed that GotBot goes explicitly with the voters and has no input of his own into these lists, this would be the one. This is the top 10 Hasbro flops, busts for the Transformers line. Things that they have tried that just plain didn't work and got panned. Voters voted on it. We have the list of 10 here. And that's going to be our focus in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey one, hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton and let you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All that's in the description down below. Also in the description down below, and if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And as I said, this will be the top 10 Hasbro flops, busts, missteps, whatever you want to call it, for the Transformers line. And there have been many over the years, no doubt about it. Outside of the Transformers line, even more. Remember G.I. Joe Origin Snake Eyes? There's a big flop for G.I. Joe. I agree with some of what the voters said here. I don't agree with some of what the voters said here. Number one will actually be a tie this time around. We have a couple of honorable mentions. The entire creation existence of the character of Wheelie is an honorable mention, as well as Beast Machine's Supreme Clash Cheetor. Yeah, that thing... that thing was supposed to be great, and it's just such garbage. I don't even think it can stand up on its own, if I'm not mistaken. Just too lanky of a design, spread out too much. It was too big. It was at a scale with everything. It was gaudy, big, ugly. I get it. So they're the honorable mentions. Beast Machine's Cheetor and Wheelie did not make the list. Who did? What did? You know what we're going to do? We're going to kick things off, as we always do with number 10 first. Number 10 I'm going to represent with Beachcomber, because it's the effective distribution network. So every company needs to get their product out to market. They need a way to distribute it. And a lot of people have said now for a long time that Hasbro's distribution is atrocious. And indeed it is. So much so that recently they kind of put the blame over onto retailers, saying, well, it's in their hands to get it out there and stuff. But while that is true, it's you as a business, it's your responsibility to get your product to your consumers. And I use Beachcomber because so many people in so many places said that this guy never ever showed up, whether in the US, whether in the, I was going to say the UK, but really a lot of European countries have said so, or even here in Canada. I never ever saw this wave. I got him because mine happened to be a pre-order. In fact, for a long time, Hasbro Canada was not at all carrying this wave, which means it became even more difficult to get. Very hard to find Beachcomber, very hard to get, and you know what? A lot of it boils down to very poor distribution networks. Yes, Hasbro might say, we're bringing it to the fans. The pre-orders are up. They've even said that the recently revealed 86 Bumblebee will be an A-level Transformer that will be everywhere. Let's see how true that is. Let's see how good your distribution network can actually be when you put your money where your mouth is, if you put your money where your mouth is. An effective distribution network is something that Hasbro does not do well. It is a flop, it is a failure, because a lot of people say you just can't get the product you want, and it takes the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9, we have, well, kind of the live action movies, but a specific live action movie, being The Last Knight. Remember these guys, or, well, this guy, Dragonstorm. Fun fact, a lot of people got this and they broke off all of these heads because they're soft rubbery plastic. I have broken 2 of the 3. One of the heads is fixed with Bondic. The other is fixed with a really strong industrial adhesive that can hold like 6,000 pounds. And like this head here, I can actually hold onto the head now and like shake this guy, and it supports all the weight. Same with both heads here. I did have to fix them. I'm just waiting for the third one someday to break off. It's not the soft rubbery plastic that breaks. It's the way the, I guess, jaw hinge was designed that breaks. Nevertheless, people voted not so much for the line, though there were a few votes for the last night line, saying it was the first one where they started to try and eke in overpricing for really what ended up being a lot of repaints. Like the Dinobots were all just repaints, for example. Poor tolerances on some of them too. Steelbane, for example. But the film itself, it did not gross or do as well as the other films. A lot of people said it was too long. A lot of people said you did not have characters that got fully fleshed out. After all, you had that submarine that never even transformed. And the editing, the storytelling was just a hodgepodge mess. I mean, you had Anthony Hopkins using the word dude. Who thought that was a good idea? The last night for me was a fun ride because I don't look too deep into the Transformers films and I just enjoy them for what they are. But I understand the criticism with the last night because it was kind of sloppy, kind of haphazard, but it was a fun explosion fest. The last night, the limping of the Bayverse, if you will, takes the number 9 slot. Number 8 was Pretenders. Now I'm actually showing it with the Power of the Prime's Octo Punch here. I could have shown it with like some of the Legacy stuff, but I think Legacy has actually been doing it the right way where you have homages to both the outer shell and the inner bot. Now some people have not liked that and have been very vehement about it. But the voters that voted for Pretenders said, look, it was a lame idea. You had a brick of an outer shell that could really do nothing other than the arms were able to go around. Other than that, unless it was like one of the like mega Pretenders or whatever they were called, other than that, your kind of, you know, basic Pretenders had a front shell and a back shell that just, you know, opened up and did absolutely nothing. No articulation, no nothing other than the arms. And the Power of the Prime's little lads done the same thing. And once you had them open, inside, the bot that was inside, more often than not, was not that great. Though I did have Skullgrin, and I did love his inner bot. However, I look back at the Grimlock, the Starscream, the Bumblebee, and like, they were a little lacking, if you will, for what would be considered a good Transformer. And they were lacking because they had to fit in the shell that they were saddled with. I liked Pretenders. A lot of fans didn't. And for that reason, the whole concept of Pretenders with their brick shells, with their limited quality inner robots, you know what? Beginning to end, inside and out, considered to be a bit of a failure, and they take the number 8 slot. From Aqua Speeders and Illuminators to Sparkbots and the Accelerators, coming in at the next slot we have, that's right, G2. This is the laser cycle represented. I'm just representing G2 here with Road Rocket. This is the Legacy Velocitron Road Rocket. G2 comes in at the number 7 slot here, not because of the original ideas that were in the line. And they did have some pretty cool original ideas. However, G2 is also saddled with a lot of really foolish, silly repaints that a lot of people didn't like. Why was Beachcomber green? Why were the Dinobots now multicolored? You know, why was... You know, you could use Bumblebee, you could use Jazz to kind of explain all that. Even the Optimus Prime, before you had like the one with the shoulders. Then you had the multiple weird Megatrons. Remember the Combat Hero? I think that got canceled and only saw release in selects with that tiger camo. So many wacky ideas. It was the epitome of an age where G1 was dying and they were trying to just throw everything at the wall to see what might stick. And nothing was sticking with G2. Because it was just rehashes in a lot of ways of things that had already happened. And the new ideas, while cool, were quite limited products in terms of articulation and even in terms of transformation. Like, I've reviewed the Accelerators. They're nothing fancy. They're fun, but they're nothing fancy. It's shocking to think that that's the era that came before the fantastic evolution and the articulation and the transformation that we would see a la Beast Wars. G2 was a limping sad attempt to reinvigorate what was the G1 glory. It never took off, it never fared well, and for that reason it takes the number 7 slot. Number 6 takes us to these things. Yeah, Power Core Combiners. Remember those? They kind of came in 2 flavors. One was you had like this center that I think was called a commander, and then like 4 drones. And the drones were like interchangeable, and I think you could even change them with different cores, a la like Scramble City. But the drones had no sentience of their own, no robot mode. Think like the Energon Optimus Prime and his different drones that he could attach. And they didn't even really transform per se. They had like an automorph feature, which made the articulation very weird and wonky. Of course, Power Core Combiners also came in 2 packs where they kind of came with a Minicon, but I don't think the Minicon had like a vehicle mode and stuff. I think it like was kind of like a weaponizer and would like kind of become bits and pieces and stuff that you could attach to like the main commander. It was, I would say, very much an early precursor to later combiners, later attempts of things that would become like the Fall of Cybertron Bruticus, and from there Combiner Wars, and probably even now evolved into the MPG Raiden and like the Legacy Menasor, right? But very early on, we had Power Core Combiners, and while some of them were more successful than others, and while some fans absolutely loved their Power Core Combiners, there were a lot who said, man, they were a disaster of engineering. They were kind of all just made up. They weren't combiners as we knew them. They weren't even combining characters really that we knew. And while new is great, you need to be able to pull it off effectively, and Power Core Combiners just didn't pull it off effectively. That's how the fans feel, and enough of them voted that Power Core Combiners, as an idea, as a Hasbro flop, takes the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd because we've reached the ever-coveted, ever-popular halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have exclusives. Specifically, exclusives of mainline characters. Like Cosmos should not be an exclusive. The Conehead should not be. Thundercracker and Skywarp should not be exclusive. You want to do exclusives? Fine. A, don't overuse it. B, if you're going to do an exclusive, you have to make sure that it is somehow available in all nations, if you're a multi-million-dollar, global company. And C, if you're going to do exclusives, have characters that it makes sense to do as exclusives. You want to do Toxitron as an exclusive? Cool. You want to do, I don't know, Thundertron as an exclusive? Cool. You want to do Combat Hero Megatron as an exclusive, or G2 the Seeker Sandstorm as an exclusive? Fine, because they're all a little more niche. They're all a little more special. If you want to do some of the G2 stuff, the Predators, the Accelerators, do those sort of things. But anything that's main, anything that has a big fan following, anything that's a character that is super recognizable, maybe you should just do them in a manner where they go out to all retailers, so you don't leave any sales on the table. So you don't leave any sales behind and any money behind. Because guess what? Something like Cosmos, folks really wanted. It also speaks to your inability to do effective distribution. After all, I only ever saw 2 of them. One for me and one for a buddy of mine. A lot of people in the US never ever saw him first nor last until he magically appeared at Ollie's. And then you had the UK, who are getting like boxes of 8 at a time of just him. A wild, wild story related to this guy that really shows not only the ineffectiveness of distribution channels, but the ineffectiveness of making mainline popular characters exclusives. Should never ever happen. At least that's how fans feel. Overusing exclusivity. One of the biggest busts for all of Hasbro. One of their biggest failures, and it takes the number 5 slot. Number 4 is this thing. HasLab Unicron. And if you got one and you love it, yay you win. However, at the time I said, this is a huge slap in the face and a big ripoff. I mean, the thing was like 600 US for a shell former that's not even remotely accurate to Unicron. A lot of people said it's so accurate. No, it's not. Unicron should have symmetry on his chest, and his back looks like his chest. His back is not a bunch of planety chunks. His legs don't have a bunch of planety chunks. I've heard mixed reports that he can stand on his own and that he cannot stand on his own without the help of that stand. I've heard that because of his size and his heft, I mean, you can't really get any dynamic poses. I don't know. I also know that The thing failed, and then it failed again, and they kept expanding and magically adding numbers to it so that it all of a sudden seemed like it succeeded. It was one of those things where it was the third HasLab project. They had had one success, they had had one failure with sad old Cookie Monster. Being the third one, to keep an average of more successes than failures, this had to succeed. There was no planet, there was no way that HasLab Unicron wasn't going to succeed because Hasbro was wanting to push the HasLab concept. A lot of people would say the mere fact that they saw crowdfunding as a, at the time, $12 billion valued company was disgusting. Their value has gone down. I still think the crowdfunding is disgusting, and I think the most egregious of them all was Unicron. Surprisingly, I did not think he would appear on this list at all because a lot of people love him. But guess what? A lot more voters thought that he was basically a scam and a ripoff for a shell former, that he was able to take the number 4 slot. Coming in at number 3, we have this. That's right, it's Beast Machines. In essence, Beast Machines is really Beast Wars Season 4. It is not any new characters, not even any new voices. It is the exact same characters of Beast Wars. It is the continuation of their story after they leave Earth and return to Cybertron. It's not a new story, it's not a separate continuity, it's all the same thing. Because a lot of people will say, I love Beast Wars, didn't like Beast Machines. If you haven't watched Beast Machines, then you do not have the end of the story of Beast Wars. It's really as simple as that. That said, the voters here kind of complained in two ways. They said the designs and the releases were largely terrible. For example, Supreme Clash Cheetor was abysmal. I agree. The show itself was awful. I don't think the show is awful. I think that's an oversimplification. There was a time I thought the show was awful, but I have now watched it, as I own it, 3 times. And I realized it's actually somewhat brilliant, and it really focuses on the debate between technology gone wild and biology still being the kind of apex of control. What should control the universe more, the world more? Technology and technological advancement, or people? And you know what? This modern day and age with all things like AI and whatnot, all of this seems a little more apropos thematically. However, I will admit that it is very dense, it is very deep, it is the sort of thing that can get to be a difficult slog through. But if you've watched it a couple of times and dig deep enough, there is a brilliance in there. It's not going to be for everyone, because not everyone wants or can dig that deep. A dense television series with a generally recognized, somewhat abysmal product line rolled out with it. I get it. Product line, fiction, it's all pretty bad. Bad enough that fans put Beast Machines at the number 3 slot for one of Hasbro's worst flops. Number 2 I agree with, I get, because it's this. Yeah, the red line, the robot enhanced design line. I only reviewed the first wave, and I did not like the Optimus, I did not like the Soundwave, I did not like the Megatron. I don't like the tactile feel of the materials they used. It felt gummy to me. The joints felt gummy to me. I didn't feel like they moved well. It just, it's not for me, and I know they've done a bunch of them since. That said, the biggest gripe, more than materials, that voters had was, why didn't they do any characters that would have made sense in the red line? You had Optimus, and you had Prime Optimus, and you had Megatron and Prime Megatron and Soundwave, and you had a couple of Starscreams in there and a Cheetor and whatnot. Why didn't you do Quintesson Judge, Prosecutor, Executioner? Why didn't you do, I don't know, Kranix? Why didn't you do any of the humans whatsoever? Why didn't you do Alpha Trion, who kind of didn't need an alt mode? Why didn't you do some of the very early Transformers before they learned to transform? There was a place where the red line could have fit in. But it's the sort of thing where it seems like it was an idea that got rolled out in an incorrect manner. And it really, really suffered the line a lot. There are people that certainly like it and certainly enjoy it, and they do display well. But at the end of the day, when you have an idea that you misuse and mismanage, you're going to lead to a failure. And it's been a long time around here since I've seen any red on the shelf, because the ones that were there went on deep, deep clearance. I can't imagine that retailers were hip to pick up more. And for that reason, they have to be deemed a failure. They have to be deemed a bust. They have to be deemed a flop. And they take the number 2 slot. And now here we are at the very tippy top number one. And I said number one is a tie. And honestly, I am so sad and disappointed by both of the entries at number one because I actually adore both. The first is Action Masters and the second is the Earthspark figure line, toy line, product line. So let's kind of talk about each of these. Action Masters, I get it. The criticism that everybody said for Action Masters was the best thing about them were the things that converted that came with them. The whole concept of Transformers that can't transform was a waste of time, a waste of money, and just trash. Now, I loved Action Masters. I admit they didn't transform, but I love that we had so many characters that finally really kind of looked very close to how they looked in the cartoon. Not all of them. But like the Bumblebee was an excellent homage to the cartoon. The Jazz was very good. Soundwave was quite good. Inferno, Blaster, quite good. Admittedly, Devastator seemed like a miss. You know, I loved Rad. He didn't have anything that he had to live up to, or Mainframe didn't really have anything he had to live up to. I liked the improved articulation. I liked Action Masters, but I understand the criticisms. And a lot of fans really put out by the whole idea that they couldn't transform. I get it. I understand the criticism. I love the line, but I understand the criticism and how a lot of people see it as the limping end of G1. Then we have the product line for Earthspark. Now, some people just said Earthspark. If you don't like the fiction, if you don't like the story, if you have some bigoted political motive that you don't like the actual show, then you're disgusting. It's as simple as that. It is brilliant, well done, well-weaved fiction. If you've ever studied writing, if you ever studied storytelling, then you would really understand that for writing and editing, Rise of the Beast and Earthspark is some of the best work we've gotten ever in Transformers. If you don't like it, that's your thing, and that's your reasons. It doesn't mean that it's not good. It means you can't recognize quality, and you can be offended by that if you want, but it's a fact. It's as simple as that. It's a fact. I hate to say it, but it is. In terms of the product line, some people said there wasn't one good thing in it. That's not true either. But I will say this. I understand in part with what you say about the product line. The Terrans, they're great. They're a hoot. They're a blast with interesting transformations. Yes, the look is weird, but you got to remember, these guys were not born on Cybertron. They did not come from Vector Sigma. They did not come from Primus. They have a weird, almost more rounded look, a la the Quintessons, because much like the Quintessons, they were created by the Emberstone and Quintus Prime. They don't even have, like, Energon. They have Quintus-infused water. That's what powers them. And if you don't know those things, then you haven't watched enough of the show. It's as simple as that. But I will say this. You had a lot of gimmicky junk. Tacticons, garbage. And many of the, like, ultra class, I don't want to say ultra class, warrior class, not great. The biggest problem with Earthspark is the main line had so many trash repaints of so many Cyberverse things that just didn't sell well. You know, everybody said the Cyberverse Shockwave looks great. Okay, so they painted the chest yellow instead of purple, and they put it out, or pink, I should say, and they put it out again in Earthspark. Did you think people wouldn't notice? They've done the same sort of thing, if I'm not mistaken, with a Warrior Optimus. I don't know, the Starscream. I get it. And sadly, I think a lot of it is shell forming because, quite frankly, I feel like fans ruined Earthspark before it ever had a chance to succeed. And I find that very sad, and it makes me a bit embarrassed to be part of the fandom. Earthspark is wonderful. A lot of fans don't think so, and enough of them think that it's an absolute abysmal failure. That both Action Masters and Earthspark takes the #1 slot for biggest Hasbro flop, Hasbro bust, Hasbro failure. There you go, man. 10 down to 1 once again. Holy moly. What else? What else had votes here? Beast Machines Battle Chariots had votes. Prime Arachnid. Yeah, that was a failure. Legacy Bludgeon. That one surprises me. Halloween HorrorCon 2-packs. Apparently they were unreleased. I don't even remember that. Transmutate, the cancellation of season 4, I think it was, maybe season 3 and 4 of Animated. Studio Series Crankcatia, that was rough, no doubt about it. Beast Wars, Michael Bay, Allspark Power Cube, the Titanium line, ugh, that was gross. let's see. The first Marvel crossovers, they weren't great. MP5, Universe 1.0 repaints, HasLab Fire Convoy. I don't know if that's going to be a failure or not. Time will tell. I find it weird that somebody voted for that. Machine Wars, Humans. Any Humans. Prime Wars, Creo. Transformers Prime Knockout, the original Transformers Prime Knockout. Squeaks. The Armada line, Build to Rule, Construct Bots, Armada Hotshot. HasLab Death Source because of the rollout, because so many people had it months and months earlier than the rest of the people. If you were rolling it out, you should have released it to everybody. Armada Sideswipe, 07 Sideways, Power of the Prime Rodimus Prime, Transformers Prime. Somebody voted for Transformers Prime and said the products weren't great. The show had terrible ratings. Like, no, none of that's true, but whatever. Yellowing. Few people voted for KISS players, which I agree with, but I couldn't include it here because that's a Takara idea. It wasn't a Hasbro failing, it was a Takara failing. The 86 movie, because it panned in theaters. Killing Optimus Prime in the 86 movie. Let's see, canceling Universe and other online games. Dark of the Moon Ravage, the Dreamwave series. All of the like unwanted like garbage lines and gimmicks and stuff. One-step changers, three-step changers, Revenge of the Fallen Devastator, Legacy Skullgrain, I love that guy. Fembots, I would say, why Fembot? You know, why would you say Fembots? And the people said, you know, they're robots. They shouldn't have any gender because they're robots. And I'm like, oh, so you mean like Nightshade, who said having a gender is idiotic because we're robots. And then they're like, oh, no, look, that guy. Man, you can't have it both ways. Either you want your robots to be boys and girls, or you don't. It's as simple as that. What else did we have here? The Energon television show. Yeah, that thing is blah. Open window packaging, absolutely a failure. Six Shot, interesting. BotBots, RID 2015. Rise of the Beast, G1 Season 3 and 4, Legacy Cybertron Metroplex, them and so many more. I'm glad that this topic is done because I knew it was going to be a tough one. I knew it was going to be somewhat controversial. Listen, I'm sure that you are like me and you don't necessarily agree with everything that's on this. I'm sure you're like me and you don't necessarily even agree with me, and that's fine. This was a difficult topic. This was a difficult list, and I'm sure we all have our own that we would put on here and things that we would certainly take off. But it's done. It went with the voters. We had, in this one, over 850 voters, so pretty good sampling overall. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm just glad that it's over. Let me know if your biggest gripes made the list or not. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time. Man, I'm really stumbling over my words here. Any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, please, and thank you. And don't forget, not for a moment, not for a second, that you right there, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres when they happen, or right here inside the videos.